Stu Peel, and we have me. So that's 3 of 5. We do have a quorum for now, and we're expecting the other 2 members to be here at some.
Mike's trying to get in. He said he thinks he's trying to get in. Mike, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
Mike, I'll have our IT guy call you. Okay.
Does he know you just pushed the link?
Are you in the right meeting? Are you in the board meeting or the executive session? Because you're not in our board meeting. You might have hit. I'm going to mute myself. Bob, go ahead, and then we'll get Mike in.
Yep. Okay, fine. So we have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of Norwich Public Utilities and the Sewer Authority. And the first item on the agenda is a period of public comment. I don't know that we have any members of the public who have dialed in, but if there are any, please feel free to get name and comment. And as we have always said during the COVID situation, that if there are technological problems that prevent you from initiating your comments during the comment period, but you do have some later on, let us know and we'll try to accommodate you. Do you have any comments?
Hello, Mr. Speaker. My name is Evan Courtney of Norwich, Connecticut.
Okay.
Hi. So I wanted to speak to the board this evening just to bring up the topic of municipal broadband. Again, I understand Norwich Public Utilities has looked into this to some extent in the past, but I'm here to put the bug in your ear again about exploring municipal broadband, and I think there's 2 important reasons why it visits another look. Number one, well, we're in 2021 here, and all of a sudden, to participate in a public, utility board meeting, you need broadband, right?
Right.
In order to, my wife has been doing classes with her students at American School for the Deaf to a large extent, remotely over broadband. So, we found ourselves in a position where high-speed data has become a utility rather than a nice to have. And you guys are the utility company, right?
Yes.
And the second thing I want to bring up is that uniquely from the last time that the utility looked at this, we're now sort of in a post net neutrality world at this point. I don't know if anybody's aware of this yet, but Xfinity, Comcast, has just introduced data caps to their to data traffic on their network that goes to the internet versus their own television platforms. So they've introduced a data cap of 1.2 terabytes per month, which seems like an awful lot, but it turns out, did the math, it's 2 hours, 25 minutes of 4K streaming. That's not quite enough for a football game, right? So, and that's fine. You can do that now. Comcast can do that. They couldn't do it, what, a year ago? This is something that's happened fairly recently. So, our Frontier doesn't have data caps in this market yet, but if Xfinity does it, how long will it be until Frontier does it too? And at that point, we won't have any common carriers of data services. So I just wanted to raise the hand and say, I'd encourage the board to revisit the idea of the municipal broadband offered by Norwich Public Utilities.
All right, thank you. Just for my part, we have looked at it, and there already is a significant penetration for broadband. It's ubiquitous, really, from Xfinity and from Frontier and from others, and I think what we looked at when we did the study was that it would not be cost effective, that it would be a money loser for the ratepayers and the taxpayers. And I think a second thing that we were concerned about is the advent of 5G, which is going to reduce some of the focus on wired broadband as well. Having said that, I'm happy to have us take a look at it again.
is that study available to the public?
Chris, you would know better than me.
So there's competitive information in that report. We may be able to look at it and see if some of that could be broken out, but
Is it possible to redact that?
we can look at that.
Chris,
I mean-
how can I get a hold of you, Chris, about that in the future?
It's easy enough. Just call the 887-2555, ask for me, and they will punch it through.
Or
Thank
make
you
it
very
email.
much.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we seriously looked at because our objective is to generate revenue, both for the to provide people in Norwich with services, and also to increase our support of the city, where we give them 10% of our gross revenues. So we basically give them somewhere in the neighborhood of $8.5–9 million a year, and that has the effect of reducing taxes. So look, we're all interested in growth, but we have to do smart growth, and I think it's something that we had concerns about. But we're always open to changes.
Evan,
Mr.
this
Chairman.
is Commissioner Becker. Who do you represent in this possible transaction?
I represent no party. I'm a concerned citizen who's seeing a broadband services we're reverting to the 90s, it seems. So everybody remember their 300 meg data caps to CompuServe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. There's no question about that.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, if you're all set, we will. Chris will look up the material for you, and if you have any other comments, please articulate them. But otherwise, we'll move on. And I will assume you're done. Is there anyone else who wants to make public comment?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Good evening, board. My name is Jason Morris. I live at 145 Canterbury Turnpike.
Okay.
And I'd like to start by echoing actually the call for municipal broadband. This is an idea that I've known for several years now, and especially for our community with larger populations of lower income families, it's a very good idea. It's an expensive service per person for individually for us, and the only service provider with decent speed is Xfinity. Frontier, there's really no comparison. It's not worth even paying for. I'm certain a public service paid for by taxes would save every citizen money individually, and providing it for the whole community would be great. My main reason I'm here actually is for municipal solar. I've been attending these meetings here and there over the last few months since the summer, listening in and looking for talk of it, but I haven't heard any. The cost per watt installed has drastically fallen over the past few years. And myself, I'm nearly ready to install my own DIY system on my house for under $7,000 or $8,000. And that's a almost 5 kilowatt system. When it comes to municipality utilities like us, we have such great flexibility or ability to do big things that are good for our community, and I think municipal solar is one of them. We have a lot of land and a lot of buildings that can be used for this purpose to bring down our rates, which I've done cost comparisons. I see that I have a property in New London, and its Eversource service is less than half the cost per kilowatt than it is here for Norwich Public Utilities. I'm paying around 21 cents here, and it's like 8-ish down in New London. So I really think that municipal solar would be a great idea to lower our rates and also, lower our carbon footprint. Thank you.
I presume you're aware, I believe it's the largest solar farm in Connecticut is located in the Norwich Business Park. And there's another one on where is it, Chris?
Rogers Road.
Rogers Road.
So there is significant solar. I'm a little concerned about the statistical comparison between your cost of Eversource and Norwich Public Utilities, because by and large, that is not our experience at all. Now that there may be something unique in this situation, but typically we're lower than Eversource.
I definitely would agree that service is immensely better than Eversource. But from what I see, like I said, I have a property in London with electric service, and when I look at the delivery charge, and then the supply and everything, I put it all together. That's what I see, and maybe I'm doing it wrong, but it does seem like solar would be a great idea or actually to expand what we have. I'm not sure. I have seen those. I have seen those solar parks, but I'm not aware of how they are bringing down our costs per kilowatt.
Well, Chris knows more about this than I do, but I mean, our experience and the experience of CMAC, which is the group that actually runs the solar parks, is that the total cost of solar is higher, not lower, than carbon-based power, at least right now. And that's particularly the case when you remember that users of solar power, or whether it's individual houses or solar farms, also require that the traditional power generation capability stay in place. But Chris, you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, so solar is cheaper where it's subsidized by other retail customers. And in Norwich, we are not doing that subsidization. We're purchasing that power back not at retail cost, but at the wholesale cost. So we provide less value back for the solar, but it's the true, it's not subsidizing the cost of the solar in Norwich. Now, when we look at the 6 megawatts or so of the solar fields, we have done this to improve our carbon footprint. We've done this for renewable energy, but it is one of the highest costs of our electric portfolio of where we're getting the power. We're buying it on the grid cheaper than we are getting it from the solar fields. Still, it's got value, and we want to make sure we are expanding our footprint in green energy, but it's not the cheapest as some people think it is.
And when it comes to rooftop solar, one of the situations that exists is that utilities traditionally have charged, among other things, a maintenance charge within their overall rate. So you would have to maintain and replace generating facilities and so forth and so on. And that's part of the overall rate, but it's also a relatively low part of the overall rate. And people who use rooftop solar use the traditional generation as a backup as opposed to an ongoing use. So effectively what happens is that they don't pay nearly as much to maintain the overall carbon-based generating capacity, and effectively end up having the other people subsidize them. But having said that, I mean, certainly I think we do want to look at additional ways of being environmentally sensitive and also holding down rates.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I had just seen from, I think it was in the summer of last year, that the price of solar had gone, like the overall cost had gone just cheaper than fossil fuels. But if that's still your, what the research says on your side of things, it's understandable.
All right.
Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Hey, Bob? Just to let you know,
Yes.
Bill Warzika has joined the meeting, so we have
Okay, great.
all of our commissioners are present.
And do we have any other public callers? Chris?
Not that I'm looking now, Mark.
Oh, okay, I'm
Bob.
sorry.
I think everyone else is a guest for later in the agenda.
All right, great. We will then close the period of public comment and move on to approval of the minutes of the Utilities and Sewer Authority meetings held on November 24th, 2020. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion, Bob, to approve both meeting minutes of the
Thanks.
November 24th, 2020 meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second, Stu Peel.
Thank you, Stu. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. The minutes are approved. And the next thing is the Neighborhood Assistance Act Awards. Chris?
Oh, thank you, Bob. Once again, NPU is participating in the state of Connecticut's Neighborhood Assistance Act program, which allows businesses to make tax credit payments to qualified nonprofit organizations. This tax credit program is administered by the Department of Revenue Services and is designed to provide funding for municipal and tax-exempt organizations through a tax credit for businesses that make cash contributions to organizations and projects approved by the state. Each year, NPU pays the gross revenues tax of the state of Connecticut on the purchase of natural gas and electricity. The Neighborhood Assistance Act limits participating organizations to $150,000 per year in tax credits, and the statewide program has a cap of $5 million. This year, NPU is providing $147,993 to support energy efficiency programs with 3 outstanding community partners who all are with us this evening to provide overviews of their projects. Jill Corbin, are you here representing St. Vincent's de Paul Place?
Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Jill.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, commissioners. I just wanted to say when the COVID-19 virus began moving across the state, the staff and volunteers at St. Vincent de Paul Place in Norwich knew the food and care and advocacy programs would be facing what could be its greatest challenge. Fortunately, through careful planning, we have been able to stay open 6 days a week, providing hot meals, food bags, showers, laundry, warm clothes, emergency financial assistance, and a place for people to stay inside with proper distancing, as well as monthly COVID testing to the public. Since the pandemic, many more families and individuals have asked us for help. In 2020, we saw a 38% increase in new households coming to the food pantry and a 47% increase in our hot meals program. As many of you know, we occupy a former school building, which is nearly 100 years old. We have made many improvements and repairs since we moved in 8 years ago, and NPU has worked with us since the beginning. You have helped us coordinate an electric transformer upgrade. You helped us fix a troubling sewage problem. You helped us retrofit an old lighting system, which has since paid for itself in savings with new LED lights. You also helped us carry on a holiday tradition in our neighborhood by helping us hang lights on a big tree by the median on Cliff and Park Streets. And in 2019, NPU gave us funding to install an energy savings dishwasher system through the Neighborhood Assistance Act. Our next major project at St. Vincent de Paul Place is to install an HVAC system and to replace the basement windows that are over 50 years old, which NPU has generously funded through the 2020 Neighborhood Assistance Act. The basement, which is 5,300 square feet and 50% below grade, consists of 2 habitable areas, including the dining room and adjoining kitchen. Since there is no air conditioning or suitable ventilation systems, the humidity and air temperature in the basement is very uncomfortable for guests and staff. Being a drop-in center for the community, many people come to us to get out of the heat in the summer and the cold in the winter. In the last couple of years, our definition of a cooling center was to put a big air conditioner in a classroom upstairs and bring up 20 people at a time for some relief. This new HVAC system and energy efficient windows will make our buildings safer, healthier, and more enjoyable. It is an integral part of making an eco-friendly building, and it will make a great cooling center in the summer for everyone to enjoy. Chris LaRose, your leadership and efforts to help businesses grow and to be more energy efficient makes us all stronger. What you do with local businesses, including ours, helps us keep our expenses low so we can focus on our mission of meeting the immediate needs of our community. Thank you so very much for being a great neighbor and partner in making our neighborhoods a better place to live in. On behalf of all of us at St. Vincent de Paul Place, we want to thank you, the commissioners, and all the staff at NPU very much for your generosity and continued support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next group is that we're able to help was the Norwich Historical Society. Regan Miner is here with the Historical Society. Regan, able to get on?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to comment on our projects. For those who don't know me, my name is Regan Miner, and I'm the Executive Director of the Norwich Historical Society. With me tonight is Bill Champagne, President of the Norwich Historical Society. He's on the phone and here just as an added level of support. I'd like to first start off by giving a big thank you to Chris LaRose for his support of the Norwich Historical Society and the Neighborhood Assistance Act program. We are most appreciative of Chris and NPU's support. NPU has been a long supporter of the Norwich Historical Society and the Neighborhood Assistance Act. In 2016, NPU awarded the Norwich Historical Society roughly $38,000 for the Neighborhood Assistance Tax Credit Program to support efforts to restore the East District Schoolhouse located on Washington Street in the Norwich Town Historic District. The funds went to stabilize the building, restore the windows, and install a drainage system to prevent water from entering the space and causing structural damage. In 2021, NPU is supporting the Norwich Historical Society through 2 projects funded through the Neighborhood Assistance Act. NPU awarded Norwich Historical Society roughly $32,000 towards energy-related upgrades to the 1789 East District Schoolhouse and the 1783 Dr. Daniel Lathrop Schoolhouse. Both historic brick schoolhouses are in the Norwich Town Historic District. 18th century schoolhouses are rare enough, but to have 2 in one historic district is extremely rare. We will use the funds to secure the building envelope at the Lathrop Schoolhouse and use the funds to install an HVAC system at the East District Schoolhouse, likely a split system unit. Historic preservation has numerous economic benefits, such as increasing property values, improving residents' quality of life, enhancing heritage tourism within the community, and encouraging downtown revitalization. Further, adaptive reuse of a historic structure is more sustainable and environmentally friendly. Restoring these historic properties help enhance the Norwich Historical Society's long-term goal of making Norwich Town a heritage tourism destination. I'd like to thank you all for your support and thank you for your time this evening. I'm available to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Right. Thank you, Reed. And the third project we were able to help with the Neighborhood Assistance Act this year was the Arc of Eastern Connecticut. And we have Penny Newberry on the phone to describe their project. Penny, are you with us? No, Penny, we're not able to hear you.
Chris, could I just provide just a thumbnail overview of the project?
Certainly, Chris. Absolutely.
So the ARC is a central part of the community. They've got over 100 employees in Norwich, 150 residents that they help on a regular basis, provide a variety of recreational and occupational programs for people with developmental disabilities. They've been a terrific partner in the community. This support through the Neighborhood Assistance Act will allow them to replace or retrofit 217 older light bulbs with new LEDs. They'll save more than $7,000 a year on their annual energy expenses. So this will pay itself back in 3 years. They'll also be able to redirect the savings towards the terrific program that they have for their clients. So it's a win-win all the way around, supporting a local nonprofit that's doing so many wonderful things already. And we're very excited to work not just with the ARC, but with the other two organizations as well.
All right. And sorry, Penny, you weren't able to talk to that, but thank you all for joining us this evening and discussing your projects. And thanks for helping out, Chris.
Well, Chris, just on my point of view, I think you should be congratulated for this this effort. My understanding is that essentially what we're doing is using tax credits to do this, so that there's no significant cost to NPU. It's a clever way to raise funds and make worthy contributions.
Yeah, so it's keeping the money local. This money normally would go up to the state and get dispersed throughout the whole state. This keeps our Norwich money in Norwich, helping our much needed nonprofits who can use all the assistance they can get.
Chris?
Yes, Bill.
I would just like to say thank you too for your leadership and promoting these three organizations. They're three great organizations, and I give providing the assistance that you did and that NPU did is really, should be a testimony to the great work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, if there are no other comments, the next item on the agenda is the Yale COVID study. And Chris, it's all you.
Thank you, Bob. Tonight we have Professor Jordan Pesha from the Yale University who will provide an overview of our wastewater COVID study. And then we will follow that up with David Poor, who is our GIS manager, to provide an overview of the additional data we use each day to manage our operations throughout the COVID pandemic. Jordan, you able to join us?
Yes, I am. Thanks very much, Chris. And again, thank you all for inviting me to present some of the results on what we call the COVID-19 wastewater monitoring throughout the state of Connecticut. And I'll present to you a little bit about the Norwich data tonight. Next slide, please. So this is, I think I should start off just with who's involved in this. And so I'm there on top left. Below me is Annabelle Pan and Alessandra Zulli. These are students at our university that do an awful lot of this work to make sure that wastewater information gets out in a timely way. But we're also well integrated with the Department of Public Health, even the Centers for Disease Control. They fund this study. We work with the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station, Yale School of Public Health with epidemiologists, and as well, I'm an engineer, but you can see on the bottom right here that we work with the local health directors, including Patrick McCormick there in Uncas Health District. Next slide, please. And of course, the stars of this program are the utilities. And so we're working with 7 different utilities right now in the state of Connecticut. Danbury is the newest one. Right now, our program covers about 18 different municipalities and more than 1 million people. So Chris Rose and Mary Sullivan are the 2 folks in Norwich Public Utilities who have been very helpful in our work so far. So next slide, let's kind of get into it. The question is why am I telling you about wastewater and COVID? And so let's talk about the reasons why we might measure COVID in wastewater. Next slide, please. So early on in the outbreak in March of last year, I had done a lot of work in wastewater. I'm a professor of environmental engineering here at Yale University. I've worked with wastewater treatment facilities across the state and across the United States. We got in touch with New Haven's wastewater treatment facility because I knew that coronaviruses end up in the gut and they infect the guts of people. That means that they're going to end up in the wastewater. And when New Haven was having such a difficult time testing, we knew that we should be able to detect this in the wastewater. And if you look at the right, that little graph, that's one of these epidemiology curves that you see all the time. Starting in March 19th, cases went up, then cases went back down. That's for New Haven, Connecticut. That's that first wave. But what those four graphs over in the left represent is a concentration of the virus that causes COVID, SARS-CoV-2, in the wastewater. We determined that concentration by using just the same PCR test that the CDC came up for in testing nasal swabs. And you're seeing just four different methods of testing it there, but they all show exactly the same type of profile. That is, it seems like if we just measured the SARS-CoV-2 in wastewater, we can get the same idea about when things start, when things peak, and roughly the number of people who are infected. Next slide, please. But wastewater can have some advantages. The first one is the efficient. Currently, we're taking 6 daily samples every day we run in our lab, and that covers 100,000 residents in Connecticut. Just 6 samples, I'm sorry, 1 million residents. So just 6 samples, 1 million residents in Connecticut. How much does it cost for a wastewater sample? About the same that it costs to test 1 person for COVID. So we get a huge efficiency there. The next slide, or one more click, is that it's fast. So testing is prompted by symptoms. And when a person is infected, they will likely shed that into wastewater, and we'll see that the same day or the next day at a wastewater treatment plant. But it may take them a while to manifest symptoms, or the symptoms may never come at all. They may never get tested. Even if they do get tested, it takes a while to schedule that testing, and then there are delays in getting the test information back. If you look at that plot there on the right, the red line is just a smooth line of the virus concentration in New Haven. The black line is the testing information. The difference in those peaks are about 7 days. That is, we can see into the future 7 days versus what you get for testing. When you look at the testing information for COVID, if you look at that data, that is not for today. That is the data that came from a person who went to get tested 3, 4, perhaps 5 days ago, right? The wastewater data can be the data from the today. And in fact, we're 1 day behind right now in the wastewater data. We got samples from Norwich yesterday, and that data is now up on your website. Next slide, please. And then finally, I want to say in some ways it can be more accurate. There's certainly always a lot of noise in this type of data, but wastewater testing doesn't care about the things that COVID testing does. It doesn't care if it's a holiday, and it doesn't care if it's a day of a week where people go get tested more frequently than others. It doesn't care if a community has resources. It doesn't care how much a government cares or doesn't care about COVID. It doesn't matter if you're asymptomatic or not. As long as a person is using a toilet, which happens pretty steadily, we'll be able to detect it in wastewater. Next slide, please. So I wanted just to show you one more last feature about COVID and wastewater, and that is that we can use the wastewater data to predict the number of cases. So in the next few slides, we'll do that. So if you work with statistics a lot, this doesn't bother you, but if you're what my wife would call a normal person, this data looks like it's spread around quite a bit. And maybe I'll just call your attention to one of the graphs. Let's look at top upper left. And what you're seeing there in the dark gray dots, that's testing information. That's the number of cases in Stamford, Connecticut per 100,000 people. That's what we call the case rate. You can see how that moves around all the time. That blue line that fits into it is a mathematical model that we've developed, and its only input is the SARS-CoV-2 concentration. And then that light blue backing is just a region. So what I wanted to demonstrate to you is if we just know through some algorithms that we've developed, statistical approaches really, that are just regressions, what the number of cases are in a community, we can determine that through simply just the concentrations of SARS-CoV-2 in the wastewater. Next slide, please. And what that means is, even if we didn't have testing, we could predict what's going on in Norwich. So on the bottom of these, I'm giving you 2 cases. One is Bridgeport and one is Norwich. The dark ones on the bottom are the actual real cases. That's what was measured in Bridgeport. I think this goes up to around early December, or actually mid-November. Same thing with Norwich. The top ones in gray are what we predicted those cases would be simply from just measurements in the wastewater. Now, I don't ever advocate that we don't need testing, because testing is a gold standard. When a person is sick and they get tested, they know that they're sick, they know they need to quarantine, so we can't replace testing. But what I'm saying, in places when testing is not available, or if testing is slow, wastewater can fill in that gap. Last two slides here, I think, coming up. So we have a website where this data is publicly available. This is looking at the website, I think, a couple days ago, and we're looking at Norwich data. The top in blue is the wastewater concentration. The bottom is the actual testing data. You'll see at the bottom right where the bars go from dark gray to light gray. That's where the testing data hasn't been filled in yet. We're filling it with light gray because we're estimating that based on what the wastewater concentrations are in our model. Next slide, please. We can look at this comparatively throughout the state. We're adding Danbury here in the next few weeks. But again, you can see the top is the wastewater concentrations. The bottom are the testing information. Now, because of some of the advantages of the wastewater, we've been helpful to the state in a few different ways, and I hope helpful to Norwich. For example, when the first outbreak happened in Norwich in September, we saw that before the cases saw that. We told the Commissioner of Health in Connecticut, we told the state epidemiologist that something funny was looking at Norwich. It seemed like cases were increasing much higher than the summer lull that we all enjoyed for a bit. They got in touch with Patrick McCormick in the Uncas Health District, and so Norwich knew about this early on. Even 2 weeks ago, when Norwich experienced another large increase, we were able to get to the state before the testing information came out, let them know that there is this large increase, and they again got in touch with the health director in Norwich. I think they increased testing or did whatever, again, the state's going to do. I'm an engineer, and so we let the epidemiologists in the state take care of any actions they may need to take. Now, I know in other places in the state, hospitals use this type of data, the wastewater data from our study, to estimate how many hospital beds are available, because again, it's a little bit earlier. We know that people and citizens in Norwich look at this data because we can track the location of a person looking at our website through our diagnostics as well. The last slide, if you could go to that last slide, please. Just wanted to let you know that this information, again, is all publicly available. If you go to this website there that I have listed, or a better way is just to go into Google and write Yale COVID wastewater, you'll see all of that information. You will have all the data that's up to date. It'll have a video that explains the wastewater testing. It'll have protocols on how to do wastewater testing, and it even has a frequently asked question section. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
In Norwich, some people have sewers and some people have septic systems. And if you looked at the demographics of it, I think what you would find is that a lot of the higher income people who live in higher income areas have septic systems, and people who are lower income have sewer. And I think generally with COVID, it's sort of been viewed that blue collar workers, people who can't do Zoom for their work, but actually have to show up and do something, and other cases like that have had a higher incidence of COVID than people who perhaps have a higher income and can, as I say, use Zoom. Is that something you took into consideration? And do you think it had an impact on how it impacted Norwich's results?
That's a really interesting point. Something that I hadn't thought of. I certainly know that there are many people in Norwich on septic, and that the wastewater treatment plant doesn't represent every person in Norwich. But we hadn't looked at the differences in income of people who are on septic versus people who are on sewer lines, if we understood a little bit more about what those income disparities might be, I mean, we could certainly enter that into our model and we could see if there is an impact or not. I mean, what I can tell you is generally the models fit in Norwich.
Yep.
Just like they fit in New Haven and everywhere else. But as you can see, you know, it's not perfect. It could improve things.
I have a question.
Thank-
Yes.
Thank you, Jordan, for your presentation. Are you testing for any other parameters, based on your work, or is it strictly COVID?
This work that's through the state as part of their COVID response, we're testing strictly for COVID. But I will say that we also have the ability to test the wastewater genetically, and we can look and see if the variants are showing up as well in the wastewater. Now, the genetic approach that is typically used to do that on a person's, an individual sample works really well for that. But as you can imagine, wastewater is, you know, a bit trickier than a nasal swab, and the concentrations tend to be lower. And so we can do it, but it's not as sensitive. We've tested Norwich's wastewater in early January for the variant, and it was negative.
Negative.
We're developing a much more sensitive test, and we hope to have that out maybe later next week. And so we'll be able to more sensitively see if certainly this variant that was more infectious in England, and we know now there I think are 8 cases in Connecticut. There are certainly more than that, 8 known cases in Connecticut. We'll know that if that is starting to arise or not.
Yeah, I was just wondering maybe if there were like pharmaceuticals that maybe you use to treat COVID, that it would benefit, but.
No, that's right. We can do that, and we have done that in New Haven. We're not doing that as part of monitoring, but we did that in New Haven because of the unique opportunity of the lockdown. And it was exactly what you think. It's not good, right? We saw lots of hydroxychloroquine.
Right, exactly.
Initially, and then we saw it go down. We see a lot of antidepressant medication, and we saw a continue increase in that throughout the lockdown as well.
Wow, that's
the increased use of opiates as well through the lockdown.
Wow.
We even could see some things like, chemicals that are used almost exclusively in brake pads for anti-corrosion inhibitors and can be used as a tracer of traffic. When the lockdown hit Connecticut, we could see the reduction in traffic and then the increase in traffic when things opened up.
Oh, so that really confirms and verifies your data. It helps to do it anyway.
Yeah. For those of you that work in wastewater, it always all ends up in wastewater.
Thank you. Very good.
All right. If we don't have any other questions, we'll move on. Does anyone have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of Dr. Pacia?
Sure.
Hi, my name is Evan Courtney. I was a public commenter in this meeting. Do you have any published work on this, Doctor? Particularly, I'm interested in how you're estimating your state variables given the noisy data. It works with something I'm working on at work. Actually, I need all the advice I can get on that.
We do, Evan. If you go if you Google, I think Yale COVID wastewater, it'll take you to our website. And in that website, it has any publications that we've done. And those publications have links to all the statistical analyses.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Great. Is anything else, or we will move on? All right. Well, hearing none, thank you very much for participating. It's an interesting study. And
So Bob, we have Dave Poor just to show what we have every day. If you can bring that up, David.
Good evening, commissioners. So yeah, this is a report that we push out every morning, and we send out to certain city officials and obviously the internal leadership team. Just for reference, this report was from this morning, and it incorporates 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday's worth of data. You can see that the state reported 5,800 new cases. That's at a 4.73%. I couldn't demonstrate it today in the screenshot, but the state went down to 3.67 as it reported this evening. And additionally, 10 new hospitalizations was reported yesterday, and today they flatlined at 0. So good news in both fronts there. And if you want to scroll down, you can see that this is the trend from the beginning of the pandemic, and fortunately statewide, this is the statewide numbers. The numbers are starting to trend downward, which is a good sign. And then what we do is we take the data from the state and we kind of take it and we regionalize the data for more specific information. So if you want to continue to scroll down, we first take it by county. And so you can see how it's distributed throughout the counties of state of Connecticut. I mean, it's obvious that Hartford, New Haven, and Fairfield are the 4 largest counties with COVID cases. And then New London County, from which we are in, is the 4th. And we reported 510. Just a reminder, that's 3 days worth of information. And if you want to continue to scroll down, this is the distribution on hospitalizations. I don't have the breakdown from tonight's tonight's report, but you can see we reported 6 new cases yesterday, but it's showing 0 new cases statewide from tonight's report. And then we take this information and then we incorporate it within both Uncas Thames territory and Norwich Public Utility Service territory. So we break it down by city or town rather. And over the weekend, Norwich reported 104 new cases, and so that was an average of around 30-ish. And then tonight's report, they reported 21 new cases. So both good signs that things are trending downward. And then lastly, I put it all in a nice chart just to kind of show that we have the 14-day average and then the ongoing rolling 14-day rate per 100K. Typically what the state represents is 1-week blocks. Because we're reporting this every day, I have a rolling average. So the rate 100 per K, 14-day rolling average is the green line. And that's that one that's trending downward. And I'd like to report that that number was above 100. Tonight, from tonight's numbers, that's below 100. So once again, it's still trending downward. And then the orange line is just the average, the 14-day rolling average. And once again, because of the numbers getting lower, that's below 40. And we do occasionally, I do add other data metrics, and I thank you, Jordan, for your presentation. We do occasionally show the wastewater treatment plant numbers as well as other references that we find. And that's my report. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I have, David, who do you, this is Bill Warzika. Do we share this information with anybody outside the region or?
I share it with the city manager, Pat, from Uncas Health, and then one of our fire lieutenants, Nate Canas, and then I'm more than willing to share it with anyone else, but that's who's been interested in receiving the information.
Yeah, Bill, this is all public information that Dave is collating and putting into a format that we can look and use and manage our operations based on what the trends are.
No, good.
So we kick off every morning. Our 8:30 leadership team meeting is kicked off with this data, and then we go into what's going on for the plan of the day.
Good. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you very much. We can move on now to the information and updates regarding three matters that we previously received material on. The leadership team update, the retirement incentive update, and the Q4 strategic plan update. Those are all there those were all there for us to review. So if there are any specific questions, we can entertain them now. Otherwise, we can move on. Any questions? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the next item, which is the CMEC update, and Commissioner Peel.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Robert. The CMEC board met on December 17th. The cost of wholesale electricity continues a downward trend. Now it's $79.36 per megawatt hour. The customer fulfillment numbers were off for November. However, the projected 2020 year-end numbers are still on track to meet target values. The project portfolio was a mixed bag, with Pierce Transmission Project number 1 and the community solar garden coming in below budget. The project portfolio was impacted most by my microgen, which performed 28% above budget, which carried the overall portfolio to an 18% above budget figure. Not reflected in the November numbers, but reported out in December, was good news concerning the final report from the aggregation contracts in Massachusetts. The final margin numbers show a distribution of over $1.3 million to CMEC, funds which were held in reserve pending resolution of regulatory matters in Massachusetts. The $1.3 million in addition to the asset portfolio will bring the 2020 year-end numbers well above budget. And the audit committee met on December 10th to review the work scope for the 2020 annual audit of the financial statement, and to meet the new engagement partner from Bloom Shapiro, who is Vanessa Rosito, replacing Jonathan Fink. The audit committee met again on January 15th to choose a topic for the 2021 internal audit and chose an audit of the Employee Benefits Administration. Also, the Budget and Finance Committee met on January 12th to discuss renewal of the Wells Fargo line of credit and review status of 2020 capital projects. And that's all I had.
All right, thank you, Stu. Are there any questions? And hearing none, the next item on the agenda is an NCDC update. That's going to be me, and it's not a happy occasion by any means. I think, as you all know from the newspaper, Jason Vincent had an accident in West Virginia and lost his life. We had no
tea.
Excuse me?
Dessert.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Steve, did you say something?
No, I'm okay. I'm
Oh,
listening.
okay. And so that has left, obviously, a major vacancy at NCDC. NCDC basically was staffing by having Jason as the lone professional. They had a part-time administrative assistant and a part-time person who was primarily doing the Foundry 66 area development. And Devin, who also works for NPU, who was a consultant for 10 hours a week. So that was basically the staffing. NPU was NCDC is looking to hire somebody. I'm on the search committee. We are gearing up to do that, but one of the issues that we are facing is finances. If you look at the NCDC budget, an awful lot of the income is tied to relatively short-term specific projects where somebody will give you some money to do something and you have some administrative costs that are covered, but it's for a specific reason and it's something that may not last forever. There's a relatively limited amount of unencumbered income. And I think one of the things that we may want to look at as time goes on, depending on what NCDC does, is perhaps increasing our contribution a little bit to NCDC. We have basically not increased it since 1999. And inflation has been with us ever since then. So, I mean, that's an issue that is going to come up, but I just wanted to bring you up to date on it. I think NCDC is thinking about hiring a second person so that we have continuity and we have backup, as well as, an adequate staff. So that's basically what's going on. Oh, and
Bob.
I'm sorry, Fawn Walker has been hired on a part-time basis to help out on the administrative end. Yes, Mike.
No, Bill Waziga.
Oh, Bill.
Just out of curiosity, so what, right now, the contribution from NPU is how much?
150.
150. And do you have any idea what you like, or you would like to see, or the board?
You know, quite frankly, I think it depends on what the city does, and it depends on what NCDC does. I mean, I think we should spend as little as possible, but as much as necessary.
Yeah.
And so I think we're gonna have to have more facts in order to make a judgment like that. But I do think, as I say, we were doing 150,000 in 1999. Bureau of Labor Statistics runs an inflation calculator on the internet, and if you look at the inflationary impact on dollars, we would be at about $235,000 right now.
Yeah.
Just to keep it even. Now, I'm not suggesting that's what we should go to, but that's a factor. And the other thing I think to keep in mind is, you know, when we were looking at Business Park North, NPU put together an exhibit that showed what our revenue was from the existing business park. Now that goes up and down, and it's you know, it's a couple of years old at this point, but it was in excess of $7 million. So economic development has a very positive impact on our revenue situation.
Right. Do you, Bob? Do you know what the increase was in 1999? Or no?
No, I don't. We may not have been doing anything before that. I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think back in 1999, Bob, there were no paid employees at NCDC. There may have been funding requirements for the park, but back then there necessarily were all. I think there was more volunteer efforts.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So anyway, that's NCDC, and that's that update. The next item is financial reports. Chris.
Laura Huron is going to be providing the financial report and the impact of COVID-19 pandemic.
Hello. So we have updated our forecast for the impact of the pandemic with our actuals through December and our forecast through March. Next slide, please. In looking at revenue for the period of January through March, our budgeted dollars under normal operations for this period is $29.3 million. Under COVID operations, we're forecasting $27.6 million, which is a 5.8% decrease. We continue to see increases in the residential customer class and decreases throughout the rest of the customer classes. For this quarter, we have reduced the forecasted penalty revenues. The interest rate for that has been reduced from 1.5% per month to 0.25% per month. Next slide, please. Under receivables, we've collected about $2 million less than normal from February of 2020 through December of 2020, and we expect a continued reduction over the next 90 days of about $620,000. So by March of 2021, we anticipate that accounts receivable will have increased approximately $2.7 million. And higher revenues during the winter heating and seating may not result in higher cash balances, so we do see the potential for increased accounts receivable, and we are monitoring that. From the expense side, from April to March of 21, we're projecting a reduction of $11.9 million worth of expenses due to eliminated expenses and also deferred expenses. Again, increased expenses for the winter season with purchase power and purchase gas expenses, seeing the weather impacted increases as we go through the heating season. Next slide, please. Cash impact of all of these items is significant. As we look at our actuals through December and our approved budget through March, our cash balances at March 31st under normal operations were projected to be over $50 million. Based on our the combined impact of the pandemic on the revenues, the receivables, and our expense adjustments, cash balances are projected to decrease about $1.5 million to $48.8 million as of March 31st. Balances as of March, if the expense reductions were not implemented, would have been 36.9 million. So a significant decrease. That is the summary of our forecast for the pandemic impacts for the next quarter. And next slide, we can look at the budget schedule. Do we have any questions on the pandemic piece before I walk up through the budget schedule?
I think that's good.
Okay. So we're in the process of developing the fiscal year 22 budget. Over the next few weeks, we'll be having in the Finance and Audit Committee meeting presentations from each of the major areas, talking about the budget drivers that are impacting the different utilities and the administrative areas. We'll be providing the draft budget to the board the 1st of March and reviewing that in detail on the March board meeting. Chris will be presenting that to the City Council. Generally, it occurs in the first week of April. We'll be getting that date shortly. And we anticipate requesting the board to vote on the budget in April. And that will then be forwarded to the city, the approved budget forwarded to the city for inclusion in their final budget, which was generally adopted the first week of June. Are there any questions on the budget schedule? Thank you.
All right, Laura, are you all set?
Set, unless there are any other questions.
Hi, this is Mike. Hello.
Mike.
Hi,
I
Laura.
can hear you.
Hi. So I know it's way too early, but just thinking ahead, now that they've canceled the pipeline project or usage, the new president has done that, I believe. Do you think that's going to have, I don't know if you're the right person to ask, but you're as good as anyone. Do you think it's going to have much of an impact on our cost structure?
I don't believe so. Steve, the pipeline that we're talking about, that is the Canadian side. I don't believe that connects to any of the things that we're looking at. Is that correct? Isn't that
No.
Outside of the gas area?
Yeah, it won't have any impact on natural gas other than any hype that's created as a result of it increasing, energy costs all around and its impact on natural gas. But we haven't seen anything with that yet.
Oh, I can't imagine it won't affect us, but
Well,
I hope.
Yeah, it's a long-term project, so I don't think it would affect anything near term, but the way the markets work, it could.
Was
Yeah,
that
you've also
was that
seen,
already? I'm not even sure the way they're talking. It was still being built, or I'm not sure about that either.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've also seen the president put prohibitions on fracking on federal land, and that's going to have some impact on overall availability too. And among other things, it's going to devastate New Mexico, that has a tremendous amount of fracking on federal land, and it generates a tremendous amount of revenue for the state of New Mexico.
Right, I heard that. Yeah. Okay.
But Mike, one thing that we do look at, we don't just look at the price of gas today. Steve and his team are always looking at gas futures as well. And CMEC also follows gas futures because that sets natural electric pricing as well. So we have a good feel where it's going to go based on the futures market as well as the day-to-day market. So that's something Steve and his group will continue to watch very closely.
Yeah, we look at that every single month. We update all of our, we update a 5-year forecast every month, and we look at the 3-year forecast as something that's a little bit more realistic out of the 5 years.
Oh, while I have the floor for a second here, I'd like to just compliment the management team, because I'm looking at the department summary of the balance sheet, and I noticed the cash from a year ago is we're actually up about $500,000 in our cash balances, if I'm reading this correct, which, under the circumstances with 18% not paying and whatnot for 5 or 6 months, I expected to be a dent in our cash balances. I guess the cost savings measures were completely enough to offset the lack of collection.
Yeah, Mike, we've worked very hard on that. And but one thing you will be seeing as we start entering the construction season in March, we will see spending go up a little bit, and we are starting to return back and start doing some of this delayed work because we have to. Short term, we could really, completely shut the faucet off. We've got to slowly open that faucet now to allow us to continue to maintain our reliability. So we're going to see a little more spending, and we're also going to start filling some of our open positions as well. Right now we have, I believe, up to close to 16 open positions between retirements and non-filled in the budget last year that we're expecting to fill.
It also seems like you had a working relationship with the union in terms of holding off on overtime and having Mr. Sullivan take over 2 positions for only a 5% increase in pay, which is hopefully unfair to him. It seems like they're working with us pretty nicely.
It's every employee and all the bargaining units have really worked closely together to get us through this pandemic, and we're not through it yet, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with vaccinations coming.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. We can move on now to strategic presentations. Chris, there are 2, sewer collection system update and the 2020 accomplishments.
All right, Larry Sullivan is going to lead us on an update of our sewer collection system and discuss some of the operational changes we're making to improve our system compliance and reliability. So this is a new focus, and Larry will lead us through this.
Okay, good evening. Like I said, Chris gave us a good segue, so we'll just jump into that first slide. Okay, so to catch everybody up, guys, I've seen these stats before, but it paints a pretty good picture. We have 124 miles of gravity sewer main, a lot of it which is well over 70 years old. We just recently replaced 300 feet on Central Avenue that was a failed box culvert that was built in 1904, so pretty much past its useful life. 50 miles of pressure force main, 800 sewer laterals, 3,800 sewer manholes. We have 38 pump stations, and 41 which we maintain for Board of Ed or the town of Lisbon. There's over 240 food establishments that will require a fog inspection on a yearly basis for EPA and DEEP. We've done bits and pieces before, but this is not something we can continue to kick down the road since it's in our permits. The guys who work for a living average about 150 daytime calls out per year for 260 working days. So the day gets real busy real fast with the sewer collection staff. Next slide, please. So what's really driving all of this is an EPA DEEP inspection. So back in December 10th and 11th of 2019, EPA and DEEP performed a very detailed inspection of the sanitary sewer collection system, the maintenance procedures regarding, and you've heard this acronym before, Capacity Management Operation and Maintenance, CMOM, which is required in our NIPDES permit. To refresh again, the NIPDES permit is the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. It's issued or renewed every 5 years by DEEP, and it covers all aspects of the plant and collection system operation and maintenance. So after those inspections on April 29th in 2000, EPA issued NPO findings of violation. There was no fine, but we did get an order of compliance for NIPDES permit non-compliance involving the collection system. There were several factors that came through that order, but one of the bigger ones was, this is from them, is Section 1B of our NIPDES permit requires that the permittee shall at all times properly operate and maintain all facilities for wastewater collection, storage, and treatment to achieve full compliance with the terms and conditions of the permit. The order found that a lot of the maintenance activities aren't being performed into a limited manner due to honestly inadequate staffing, not at the plant, but in the collection system. They referenced routine cleaning of gravity mains, condition assessments, detailed record keeping, integrating all that stuff into a capital improvement plan. And also the biggest problem in the wastewater industry is fog, fats, oil, and greases, and regular inspections of the food service establishments. Next slide, please. As part of that order that we had to do what they call a CMOM self-assessment evaluation. And that evaluation highlighted several areas that we have to develop an actionable plan to correct these issues in a way to report back to EPA deep in their words to check up on our progress. What have we been doing? Have we been living up to the terms of our permit? And there's several of these factors that the asset management one is probably the most important one we have to focus on. And that would track everything from sanitary sewer overflows, what happened, why they happened, what are we doing to get rid of that spot, that kind of stuff. Keeping track of all the preventive maintenance that we currently do in a better format. That's the acoustic testing, SLRAT, manhole inspections, root control, maintenance of all our facilities. And then prior to, doing an asset management of our system, doing a risk assessment of how old are your pipes? Is it clay? Is it concrete? Is it plastic? Risk of failure of a pipe, what would happen to it? Is it a more, what kind of neighborhood is it as far as damage to properties? We also want the FOG program to reinitiate it and improve current procedures. We're going to look for some help on that. We've never heard of this one, and this is in other people's air release valves. We have them on every force main, and some of these have never been touched. So develop a plan to implement them and test them on a routine basis. We've had some force main issues, which the board is well aware of, that we need a force main operation management program and assessment of our existing conditions. Trouble spots is the next one. This is something every community has. We have over 38 that we routinely maintain. But what's the best record keeping, and can we eliminate some of these trouble spots? And also another big one is right-of-way maintenance. We are, by a permit, supposed to have access to every single manhole that we have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have 8,800 manholes. A lot of them are through over the river, through the woods, and some are off the road. So we have to get a plan together, start finding all our manholes. So next slide, please. So back in, like 17, working with Chris, you could see that the regulatory environment was changing. So a new sewer collection system maintenance chief position was created. And one of the operators, Bill Coughlin, was hired in May of 18 to provide a more detailed day-to-day focus. Because previously, a treatment plant operator, if you see that down below in the org chart, Bill used to be under treatment plant operators / collection operators. We would rotate one of those guys through once a month and just be one guy on his own trying to maintain the system. That was certainly not going to be successful. So now with a maintenance chief out there on a daily basis and with still an operator rotating through, it's 2 guys trying to maintain all of that infrastructure that the sewer department owns. Like I said, EPA inspection report did show that we are not maintaining it per our requirements due to staffing in the collection system. So back in 2000, for fiscal year 2021, we looked at a lot of communities have maintenance technicians. These are not super high paying jobs, but these are the guys who go out every day. They jet truck, they clean pipes, they vacuum manholes, they clean out wet wells at all the pump stations we have. That's what they do all day. These positions weren't filled, financial and health and safety implications of the pandemic, but we have rolled these positions into the 22 budget, and we are hoping to fill those so we can get a jump start coming out of the gate for maintaining our system. That's pretty much it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Larry,
do you have any questions? Or
I have one. Larry, what's the time frame for us to get this done?
We have all the stuff there. There's 9 really outstanding issues in our compliance order. We have to the end of this year to rectify, or at least have a plan in place. The asset management plan, we have to respond to them that we have something. Right now we're evaluating the best plan. There's some that are so detailed that that's not for us. A lot of communities have different versions. We're trying to find something that works for us and we could possibly use in the water department or what else. We have to have an answer to them by July 1st and then actually implement that plan. They go by calendar year. So a lot of the stuff has to be in place by the calendar year, end of calendar year 21.
Okay, thank you.
all right, and Chris, the 2020 accomplishments are the other item here.
All right, I'll be presenting that. Steve, can you bring that up, please? All right. Thank you, Steve. By any measure, 2020 has been one of the most difficult and unprecedented years in the 116 years of history of Norwich Public Utilities. The global pandemic has presented countless changes to the organization, our operations, finances, and management. At work and at home, the men and women of NPU have faced obstacles and circumstances that I don't think anyone could have ever anticipated or planned for. Yet through it all, we've continued to provide our customers and our community with a very high level of service and commitment they have come to expect from NPU, and every NPU employee has performed and done really well. Going in through the divisions, we'll go into the gas slide, Steve, please. Natural gas is the utility that requires inside the home service more than any other. This year, we started off with natural gas in creating the COVID safety protocols, and they have been used by all of our employees to safely access and handle any emergency in our systems and on our customers' homes. This year, we entered into a brand new national mutual aid agreement. That's a cooperation through the NGA, which is the Northeast Gas Association, the APGA, and the AGA, the American Gas Association. So we have entered into that, so we can get or provide assistance throughout the entire country. And this year we did assist Mohegan Pequot Tribal Nation with emergency response and service installations, which is also part of our community outreach effort. We are continuing to support commercial development projects in town. West Ledge Apartments, Harbor Freight, Norwich Housing Authority, and others were projects that were larger that we did this year. And we successfully completed regulatory audits for the LNG plant, operator qualification program, and all of the safety inspections, even those requiring us to enter into our customer homes. Steve, can we go on to electric? In electric, we normally staff our control room with 2 operators and on first shift at least. And this year we did manage to staff with 1, limiting it to reduce the chance of infection and making sure that we could have business reliability. So it's been very trying on a lot of our employees. Normally the work of 2 is being done by 1 often. In August, following Storm Isaias, over 7,500 NPU customers were left without power, a substantial part of our system. NPU personnel worked tirelessly restoring 95% of these outages within the first 48 hours and full restoration within 72. We then went out to neighboring communities providing mutual aid to restore power to the surrounding community for the next 3 or 4 days. The line crews also supported economic development efforts and installed new and expanded customer services for West Ledge Apartments, Panema Mill, Nordson, Chipotle, and numerous other small businesses and residents, as well as providing exterior lighting for the primary and general elections and the Tommy Toy Fund Distribution Center, and lighting up of Howard Brown Park. Can we move to water slide, Steve? We modified plant operations in the water plants to allow us to isolate our work crews. Once again, trying to make sure we have business continuity. If anyone gets infected, it's only impacting 1 crew, and we can still continue to maintain our plants and operate our plants. We implemented major capital projects on schedule. The Sprague Emergency Interconnect, we completed the paving on that. Stony Brook Transmission Main relocation, once again, completed the paving for that project. We rehabbed our 2 deep river filters, both installed in the 70s and have not had major rehabilitation since. We are getting near the completion of the Stony Brook dissolved air flotation, the DAF system, and we expect that to be up and operational this summer. And we were able to have complete water and sewer extensions in Franklin and Basra. In addition, we've had 9 consecutive quarters of compliance with the disinfection byproduct regulations. So, a number of years ago, we had a compliance issue. We have regulated it and these projects coming online are going to help even more, specifically the Sonnenberg DAF project. For sewer, Steve? In our wastewater business, we have made substantial progress towards completing our long-term control plan with the state of Connecticut. We're getting very near finalizing our plan and kicking off the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. We have initiated the funding process, and we expect to have significant funding for this project, and hope to go out to bid early in 2022 to get that project started. As we discussed earlier, as Larry discussed earlier, we're increasing the focus on sewer collection system maintenance and upgrades, and that work has already started in the planning phases. And we have completed new sewer connections in Franklin and Basra. We've placed a difficult culvert on North Main Street this winter, and we have renewed the River Avenue Force Main. So a lot of work being done in wastewater. We go to finance, Steve. This group has worked extra hard in making sure that we can keep the business running. Every department worked with finance to reduce spending wherever possible without compromising safety or reliability through 2020. We were able to eliminate all overtime for nearly 10 months, and more than 12 million expenses was deferred or eliminated in 2020. We were able to keep our financial health strong with only a marginal decrease in our cash on hand for the most of the approved budget for 2020. All right. Another very significant thing we're able to do was put in place a 3-year rate plan. Our customers now have predictability in their utility expenses, which is really important for our business customers. Our electric rates are over 20% less than the surrounding towns, and our gas and water rates are also extremely competitive. So in a time where our business was starting to go down, we were able to get a good rate strategy that did not increase our costs significantly. All right. Customer service. Once again, we were able to manage a large volume of work. Over 312,000 bills were generated, over 134,000 calls, 32,000 payments over the phone, all while adapting to a distanced customer engagement. We used to have a lot of walk-ins, and we've been able to manage very few appointments and meet all of our customer needs. And one of the most important things is that our service center has helped facilitate over $1 million in payments from TVCCA that help the customers in most need, and that was over 1,700 customers who received assistance in this year. All right, Steve, can we move to IT? The NPI UIT team had to prepare and mobilize a significant part of our workforce to work remotely. It's not as simple as grabbing your stuff from your desk and heading home. There's a lot of technology that has to be managed, and many people who have never worked remotely before are working remotely now. To do this, we've added several cloud-based IT solutions, things like DocuSign. It's allowing us to digitally sign documents, and it's working very well with Department of Health. Other groups are using DocuSign as well, and it's speeding things up. Viewpoint, Code Red, when you're getting these reversed 911 type calls and emergencies, we're using the Code Red system to provide that information. It can be used for marketing. It can be used for emergencies. Very powerful tool. And as all of our employees are moving out, or doing more things remotely, more things on the web, cybersecurity and our cybersecurity employee education is more critical than ever in the pandemic environment. And our John and our IT staff are doing a fantastic job of keeping our systems up and running and operating in this remote environment. Okay, Steve, thank you. The strength of NPU has always been and always will be the men and women of our organization. The value of the partnership and cooperation extended by all 3 unions over the past year can't be overstated. Once again, every day, all 3 bargaining units are focused on meeting the needs of our customers and what was best for our organization. This year, we agreed to 39 separate memorandums of understanding that were executed over the past 10 months to allow for flexibility in our operations and significant savings in our budgets. A lot of work from both parties, and everyone rowed in the same direction. 2020 has proven that the men and women of NPU are resilient and ready for the new normal. It's been quite a year. Any questions on anything presented?
Chris, the only thing I say is maybe you should add the COVID testing and under wastewater. That's been a big thing for you guys, and you should be credited for it.
Yeah. So when we started that, Bill, it was not, Norwich was not included in that project.
Oh, all right.
And you know, we had Larry advocating for it, offering up a lot of our services to make that happen. Lori Matthew from the Department of Health, Patrick McCormick from Oceans Health, all combined to bring that testing to Norwich. And then Larry's team actually volunteered to drive the samples from New London to New Haven whenever we take a sample. And that allowed us to get in the program. And once again, it's a great tool. And it's something that gives positive data for Eastern Connecticut. We're different than New Haven. We're different than Fairfield County. And we have different influences. So once again, that was a great team effort.
Good.
Well, and Chris, you know, I would congratulate the whole team. It's been a very good year under very difficult and challenging circumstances, but our leader has done a pretty good job too. So I think you deserve some congratulations as well.
Indeed. Thank you, Chris, and everyone at NPU that did a great job during this difficult time.
I too had the same congratulations to a great team effort.
Mike too.
Good job.
All right, folks, we are now to the executive session. Unfortunately, I think because of state law, we have to, after the executive session, come back into session to see if there's any other business and to adjourn. Although, you know, if we want to do other business now, then all we'll have to do is adjourn, and I don't terminate the executive session phone call and then move into the non-executive session one. Is there any other business that the commissioners want to bring up?
Bob, Bill Wazika, just a quick, any word on the Freeport McMoran side at all? Have you heard?
No. And you know, Bill, I know you worked with Jason on that for a while. I haven't heard anything, but unfortunately, you know, since middle of December, that has not been with Jason gone, that has not been a good situation. But I will try to find out and get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
all right,
Bob,
with that.
Bob, I do think we will have one vote after executive session, or there's a potential for one vote.
Oh, I don't see anything on my script, but
okay. I apologize for that, but
all right, so we do have to come back. Do you think we can do it on the executive session? No, I guess we gotta get the public involved in theory. So we're gonna have to after we go into executive session, we're gonna have to change our WebEx address to do the executive session one, and then we're going to have to come back to the public one to do the additional material. So let me take a deep breath. And to discuss confidential, trade secret, and commercially valuable confidential or proprietary information not subject to inspection or public disclosure pursuant to Section 1-210-5 and Section 232A of the Connecticut General Statutes. This information is commercially valuable and confidential and proprietary and is not public disclosure pursuant to Public Act number 98-212, and to discuss personnel matters of an employee or public official pursuant to Chapter 14, Section 1, 206A of the Connecticut General Statutes. And with that in mind, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Yeah,
I'll make that motion, Bob.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
yeah, Michael seconded it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is unanimous. We are in executive session and we have to hang up and now access the meeting through the other WebEx portal.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I have resumed.
I see that. Very good, John. Thank you.
Just wanted to give everybody the heads up.
Okay, we've got a lot of staff. We need board members. There we go. We got Mike, Steve, Stu, Bob.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Who are we missing?
Bill.
Bill. Well, I don't know. Let's not. He may be having trouble
Yeah,
getting in.
Bill will join us if he can. We have a quorum, correct?
We have a quorum.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the ASME Memorandum of Agreement 2012 for Larry Sullivan.
I'll second it.
Is that the correct motion?
Yes.
That motion works.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. And the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll assume there are no negative votes. We're adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Happy shoveling.
Yes.
Everybody.
Thank you all. I haven't looked outside. Is it starting to accumulate?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's only about an inch.
Yes, and you know, Steve will be jumping into the pool tomorrow. So
Yeah.
You
can all hope he stubs his toe on the way to it.
Good sunburn, stub a toe. Yep.
That's right. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night now.